Hey guys, welcome to Wrestling Daze and welcome to today's opinions video. Hope everyone is well. We've got an interesting one to get our teeth into today. Today we're going to talk about what did you think about the Bo Dallas video? Like, did you enjoy it? Did you think it's leading to something big? It certainly felt like it was. What do you think it's leading to? Could it be The Fiend? Could it be Alexa? Could it be new targets? What did you think about the voice? Who was the voice? What did you think about the imagery? I feel like there was so much to talk about, and actually we ended up doing a couple of pretty lengthy Wyatt 6 videos on it, which was nice, actually. It was nice to get back doing some Wyatt 6 stuff. I have kind of missed it. We've had a good few weeks where we just do some on a Monday, and that's about it, really. So it was nice to have a couple of bits to get our teeth into. And obviously, it makes me want to see where your thoughts are. We've had about 38 responses or so for this, so hopefully we're going to get through all of them. So settle in. We're going to have a bit of a walk, and we'll see what you lot thought of the video. So Gio the Theo said, I think that the Bo Dallas video was perfect. I like the line, other doors shall be opened. This could mean so many things. I personally think this is referring to more storylines that will be coming, but I also think this is referring to Alexa joining the group at some point. Ethan said, I thought the video was well put together. I don't think they're talking about Alexa. This group is supposed to be like an island of misfit toys, and Alexa isn't really that. Well, I'm going to stop you there, only because, I mean, I could be wrong, but it was the last time we saw Alexa at the Royal Rumble when she did look pretty broken. She had been pretty normal, and then obviously Bray's logo had been showing up, and that kind of had an effect on her. And then of course Uncle Howdy would be making his presence felt, and I kind of feel like she was sort of a bit lost and a little bit broken the last time that we saw her. Howdy's presence was very much being felt, so he could have absolutely recruited her at that point, and she could have been in this group all along. It's just that she didn't arrive with the other members. Or it could be that, you know, she's gone off, she's had a family, she's, you know, refreshed her mind, and she comes back as being the goddess. So I wanted to just mention that there because I do think there's a path either way. I do think you can go down the road of her being in the group, or you can go down the road of her not being in the group. But Ethan saying that he doesn't feel like she fits. I think the open door in this situation means more exposure that the group gets, okay? The more it will open people's minds. I think we will leave the Fiend in the past. If we do get something like that, it would be something completely different, maybe out of the box and supernatural, which is something that they wanted to stay away from. I really don't want them to create something that's unnecessary to the story and ruin everything that they've been working so hard with the story that they're telling. So if I've got this right, you don't think it's Alexa because for you it wouldn't quite fit. You don't think, or you don't want it to be the Fiend because then we may go into like supernatural kind of elements. I still think you can bring the Fiend back and it not be supernatural. The Fiend for me at first wasn't supernatural. I mean, what we was watching is we was watching Bray on a videotape. At least at the time, I believed it to be a videotape. I still think there's a chance it was a videotape, right? Because we know, like, there is a set where it was being filmed. So, and we know the puppets existed because they kept popping up in the background behind wrestlers. So this is kind of where I struggle with the whole Funhouse just being in Bray's mind. Because the set was in the background of Bo's video the other week. The puppets were in the background, like, you know, you would keep an eye out for the puppets popping up in the corridor. So I kind of feel like he did bring what was in his head to life. The reason I say that is because if that's what happens, he then filmed and edited those vignettes that we would watch on Raw. So to me, I mean, look, there's no denying that the Fiend character was supernatural, became supernatural. They went down that road. But I'm explaining why at the start, for me, it wasn't. You know, when he was first introduced, he was introduced as Bray's darkness that he had learnt to control. So for me, that is Bray just getting all of his negative energy, just getting all of his darkness, bundling it up into a character and locking it away, basically. But that character would show itself from time to time, and that was The Fiend. And I suppose what was quite clever is that if you do that, if you bundle together all of that darkness, what are you left with? You're just left with light and joy and happiness. And I wonder if that's why, in his mind, if that's all you're left with, how do I show that? How do I symbolize that? And maybe like a kid's TV presenter is the perfect way of showing that. So if all the darkness was The Fiend, then all the light was Funhouse Bray. We know, of course, that Bray would slip into that Fiend kind of darker character at times and then have to try and snap out of it. But other than that, you know, I could see it being, that's why we ended up with the characters we ended up with. I mean, we'll never know for certain, because obviously we'd have to ask Bray, but I do think there's a way forwards of bringing the Fiend in and him not being supernatural. I suppose the only problem you've got is, how do you feel about someone being the Fiend that's not Bray Wyatt? How do you feel about Bo being the Fiend? How do you feel about Braun being the Fiend? How do you feel about Alexa being the Fiend, you know? So some really interesting thoughts there by Ethan. Things that have allowed us to kind of get our teeth into some stuff, which I always enjoy doing, because I think a lot of the conversations we have here are conversations that we might have somewhere on a live stream. But if you think of the hours and hours and hours that we stream, I can totally understand how people would miss some of these conversations. So these videos give us a really good opportunity to kind of gather together some of those thoughts and put them into one place. Brady said, I think it's leading to the return of Alexa. I think we'll keep getting subtle hints until Bash at Berlin or the Raw after Bash, where Alexa returns. September will be the month of teasing Alexa's new character that was created by Bray. Yeah, did always think that this was leading to Alexa, this who left the door open. Because wasn't that like connected to Alexa? It was the pop-up Jack in the Box she had at WrestleMania, or just before WrestleMania. So I believe that was connection. Something that at the time we were talking about connected with Alexa. Who opened the door? And we never got an answer to that. And then she, of course, being in the thing. So it does very much feel like she's coming in. But I think what's really interesting is this bit. I can only open the door. She must choose to walk through, which does make me wonder if she'll come back as goddess. And, you know, they will try to get her to walk through that door, that mental door, to revel in who she really is. Maybe she comes back and she's not quite reveling in who she is. She's forgotten who she really is because she went off and had a family. I can only open the door. She must choose to walk through. Does she walk through? Has she walked through? We're going to have to wait and see. WWE Ethan said, I've got a feeling it will lead to Alexa coming back. I would love that, because I think she would bring so much experience from how she has done it all before with The Fiend. But I wouldn't mind Bo's Fiend being Uncle Howdy and having him with his own funhouse in a tribute to Bray. Word of Wrestling said, I might be a little late to the party of this video. No, you're fine. I love the new segment with Bo. Reminds me of the QR codes in Nightbirds. Very cryptic, and I believe it leads us to Alexa Bliss coming back. I believe she is the higher power female Fiend. Jeremy said, I think it's like when Bray came back. He's wrestling his inner demons still, and whether he should let Howdy take over. Jordan said, if Alexa Bliss is going to be added to the Wyatt 6 group, how would we feel if this is what her character looks like when she returns? I think it would be very interesting to see. I think it would be too dark, to be honest. I think you could definitely have this be her darker persona. You could have this be her Fiend, if you will. But I mean, how does she cut her promos? I suppose in a way this is a little bit of an issue with Nikki. You know, Nikki is someone that just comes out and is really dark, but that's a bit of a barrier, really. We're going to struggle to really connect with Nikki. She looks cool, right? I love how she looks. She's actually one of my favorite members of the group. We were talking about this. I ranked my favorite Wyatt 6 members on the NXT stream. I think it was NXT. And I said Howdy at 1 because I think the evolution of his character has been fantastic. He's gone from being someone that I really was not sure about, was actually really worried about, to now looking at him as being this really well-rounded, interesting character who I think has got a really cool look, clearly inspired by things like Rob Zombie, stuff like that. But I just think they've nailed the look. I think he's really embodying the character. And if you look at the evolution of that, where that character started to where it is now, it's incredible. So I think for the journey that character's been on, Howdy at 1. Nikki would be at 2. I love Nikki. I do worry long term, though, for the reasons that we're talking about. There's only so long she can be silent and moody like the girl out the ring, you know? I kind of feel like we need to find out a bit more about her. Maybe there's ways we can do that without her talking. Perhaps we can show images and her just like reacting to those images. We can show her vulnerability in her body language. But then I don't think we want to do that with Alexa as well, if that's the road we go down with Nikki. I think Alexa's going to need to be able to talk and is going to need to be able to contribute. So I would say I don't have a problem with this being like the darker persona of Alexa, but I would like a lighter side to Alexa as well. Just like how we have Bo, and he was in the meeting with Adam Pearce backstage and he got beaten up by, Chad's group, American Maids. And then, of course, we've got Howdy, his darker side. Oh, very good. I'll tell you what, we're ticking a lot of boxes in this one. Isaac said, all I'm going to say is, I don't know where it's leading. And that's the fun part for me. The mystery surrounding it. Buckle up. We're in for a ride. Jim said, I'm still waiting for the other character from the Nightbird campaign, Mr. Wavy Hands Man, and I'm hoping it's that. I think the Fiend is inevitable, but it's far too early in the storyline to go there. Same with Alexa. Papa H is at the stove. It isn't Vince anymore. Long way to go yet. Right, YNWALFC says, from Taylor, he's doing this for his brother, and people are finally seeing him thrive. I think the other doors shall be opened can have more than one meaning. To me, it sounds like they're teasing a return or returns, like other pathways and avenues are now established for people from Bray's history to come through and illuminate his story and make it even more special. Do you know, that's quite interesting. I mean, you've got people like Eli Cottonwood, who was actually part of the Wyatt family right at the very beginning, like before we even saw it. I think even before it was in NXT. I think when it was still in FCW, which was the developmental system before NXT. That's actually where it started, and then it went to NXT, and then it went to the main roster. So, you know, Eli Cottonwood would be interesting. Obviously, Braun would be very interesting. I think Randy will get sucked into this. Matt Hardy may come back and, you know, he may be a part of this. You could even have things like the kids that all wore the sheep's mask and, you know, in that match when he faced John Cena. There's loads of characters and people that we can kind of pull from Bray's past. So, yeah, that's interesting. Like Bray was an amazing person to work with, so creative. The main return is probably Alexa. Call me delusional, but I'm hoping and expecting Matt Hardy, how funny, yeah, we just mentioned, to play some part in the story. Maybe sometime in the future, but I would love to see it. Ratchet the Owl said, I think that last week's debut was the end of the very first phase of the story, while the next phase will be headed with a one-on-one with Howdy versus Gable, Dexter and Gacy versus Creeds, and Nikki against Ivy. There will also be teasers for Alexa that will last till sometime after Bad Bloods. Wyatt 6 took 3 months. Walter said, The Fiend S. I'm the color red in the face from the amount of times I've said it, I truly believe she, Alexa, is coming back as the Fiend S. This is the dark character Bray has passed on to Alexa. Nikki and Alexa could be one hell of a tag team with their new characters. Ryan said, I really hope it's for Braun Strowman's Fiend debuting at Bad Bloods. Remember that Bad Blood is famous for not just Hell in a Cell with Shawn and Undertaker, but also the debut of Kane. Something similar this year would be awesome. That's a really good point, actually. That is where Kane debuted. It's a really good point. Samantha said the video was really good. I do think they're hinting towards Alexa, but I also think someone else, maybe Braun, for new targets, possibly Judgment Day or Damage Control. Damage Control because Dakota had the Pluto symbol behind her and then that theme song playing in the video. Yep. I mean, I'm still struggling with the Damage Control thing personally. It doesn't make sense to me at the moment because I understand that they betrayed Bayley, but they're an all-female group, and we've only got one. I mean, what can Dexter do to them? What can Joe Gacy do to them? What can Howdy do to them? Like, we only have Nikki. I know we can bring in Alexa, but they're still outnumbered. Bringing in Nikki and Alexa, you know, we've still got Asuka that's going to come back, Dakota that's going to come back, Io, and Kyrie. So I just feel like Damage Control, it doesn't make sense in my head. I can't figure... I can understand the theory as to why they would go after them because they betrayed Bayley, but they're even faces now. Like, they're acting a lot more like faces in this feud with Sonya and Shayna and Zoe, so... But then you're right, we did get that video the other day with the kind of piano playing in the background, so definitely one to keep an eye on, but one that's got me scratching my head as well. Patrick said, for me, definitely a sign that Alexa is going to walk through the door soon. Also feel like something with Braun is cooking as well. Alice said, I think they'll start the build towards Alexa's return, although it would be cool to see them follow her around instead of instantly recruiting her. Real Wrestling Fan said, I feel like I was watching Bo still talking to Howdy. I'm excited about last week, but Howdy trying to get him to focus on the job at hand. The doors being opportunities for others who have been forgotten. And he did because he said, there you are. So you don't think that this was us looking to open the mind of someone and get them to join the group? We're looking to open people's minds and basically set them free in a way that we sort of did with Otis. I feel like the whole Otis, Maxine, Akira story could have been a lot better because I don't really feel like the Wyatt Six saved them. I feel like the Wyatt Six made Chad pay for how he treated them, but I don't feel like they necessarily saved them. They kind of saved themselves, really. You know, they stood up to Chad and they were done. So that story was a little strange to me. Like, it just, the pieces were roughly there. They just didn't quite fully fit for me personally in that aspect of it. And I totally understand why they went after Chad. So I don't know that we can say they set Otis free. And I don't really get why Otis is walking around with a free Otis shirt. Like, what is he meant to be freed from? Like, something seems really off with that story. Like, why is he walking around? Is he not? He's free right now. Why has he got a shirt that says Free Otis? And it was a shirt that I believe came out after, like, the split with Chad and everything. The timing of all of that just feels like someone didn't spin a plate correctly. There's a lot of plates being spun. It kind of felt like a couple of them plates wobbled a bit, unfortunately. Fiji Head said, I think this will eventually lead to Bo facing Chads, which will eventually lead to Nikki or Alexa facing Ivy. Austin said, I honestly liked the video. I was a little bit confused, but I got out of it that we could possibly get new targets, like maybe Judgment Day 3.0 Street Trash is who I have in my head, or the women's tag champs, because the music playing in the background of the video gotta use Nikki. Jess said, I really hope it's hinting at Alexa, but I think it could also be pointing towards them moving on to new targets. Maybe it's foreshadowing Alexa's return and her being the next victim, per se. At least until Howdy gets her to remember who she is. Either way, I'm living for it. Wrestle Kingdom 41 said, I think the new targets Finn and JD after they beat Sammy and Jay. Joey said, I wasn't a fan. It feels like this is losing its way and adding more and more to the mix when we already have in front of us is not fully explored yet. I want to see Nikki have a match. I want Bo to cut an in-ring promo and have a match. Maybe even a full stable promo. Ramboli said there are non-pay sitting home with contracts to not be able to work other places. I'm happy all Wyatt 6 members, but Alexa Bliss better try get on welfare from Tony Khan and not try scamming that I'm not happy with them and their BS involved when I'm happy they can work. I don't even understand that. I don't even understand what that is. What does that even mean? They're on non-pay, sitting at home. Who's at home not being paid? With contracts, not able to work other places. So they're on contracts, but not being paid. Can't work other places. I'm happy all 6 members. Alexa better try get on welfare from Tony Khan. I don't get this. I don't understand. Are you saying that Alexa is at home, under contract, not being paid, and she's... No, I don't get it. I was trying to get it, but I don't get it. Kane said, it was great and amazing how a simple short video can be so layered and complex. Their mission in the long term is recruitment. And if they go with a story like The Stand, I think Karrion Kross and the Final Testament will be their villain. The Fiend will return. Logan said, Alexa's first target is pure Fusion Collective, not Damage Control. Nathan said, I'm crossing my fingers for the Fiend. It doesn't seem like Alexa right now, but it could be though. Either way, I'm super invested and I love the story. I know Bray will be looking down with a giant grin. Really makes you think where we would be if he was here. Legends never die. R.I.P. Bray. Luciaxo said, what do we think about Braun being in the Wyatt 6? Seeing as he was an original Wyatt family member. Feels like he should be part of it. I've got a feeling he could come back as a new monstrous version of The Fiend or something else. He has disappeared the last few weeks. I suppose the problem is that I understand why... Well, I don't totally understand why everyone's in the group, but they're trying to give us reasons, you know? I mean, Dexter Loomis, for example, he was being underutilized. But, like, they're trying to make out he was betrayed by his family. I feel like whatever's happened with him and Indy, or him and Johnny, him and Candice, is something we've just not seen. So I feel like there's questions there. I feel like there's questions around Joe Gacy. Yeah, okay, Schism broke up. But he was, you know, doing stuff on his own. He had a feud with Dijak and whatnot, you know. You can make an argument that they didn't know quite how to use him or how to get the best out of him. You could definitely make that argument. But, and maybe you can make the argument he was a bit directionless. But he was also down in NXT where many, many people are directionless. That's where many people are trying to find themselves, find their characters. You know, that's kind of, you are a work in progress, really, when you're in NXT. So I think I would feel a bit different had he have been on the main roster, you know. And he was like Nikki. Nikki was lost on the main roster. Rowan wasn't even in the company. Like, I can totally understand why those two are in the group. Dexter and Joe Gacy, fine. No issues. But their reasons don't feel as fleshed out. Let's put it that way. I didn't feel like I got, like, the big answer out of their video, you know? You can find reasons, as we've just said, but... those two, you know, they want to put them in the group. They think the truth is they feel they'd be a good fit for the group. That's the truth. Like, I think Bray always liked Joe Gacy, so he goes in. And I think Dexter was always quite dark and mysterious, and he seems like a no-brainer, right? So you kind of put them in, and then you try and figure out the reasons afterwards. So that puts us up to 5 with Howdy. Now, if Alexa joins, that would be 6. I mean, that is a lot. That is a lot. And so to put Braun in and have 7... I mean, I don't know what you do with a group of that size, because there's no other factions for them to feud with, because they would be too big. They would have the numbers advantage, and they would just, you know, overpower any other group. So you could have them all going off individually, but then my question would be, why don't you just do that with Braun? So rather than bring him in, I think you could, like, have him kind of turn to a darker side, but maybe have him as a monster that's kind of connected to the group, but not, like, doesn't really hang with the group. You know, he's a monster that's kind of off on his own. In an ideal world, maybe you would swap out Loomis for Braun, you know? Or you'd swap out Gacy for Braun. But I don't know about having 7. I mean, I'm not massively keen on 6, to be honest. I always think a good number is 4 for a group. That way you can have someone go after the main title, someone can go after the mid-card title, and then you've got 2 people to go after the tag titles. And if you want to put a female in so that she can go after the women's title, so be it. I suppose in this day and age, you know, where we're exploring the opportunity to have tag belts, which we've got, or mid-card belts, maybe you can then look to bring in another person on top of that with Alexa. But then, as I said, bringing in a 7th, where do you draw that line? So for me, I totally get why you would want Braun in the group, totally understand it. And maybe if we were to redesign the group, we would put him in instead of Gacy or Loomis. But I don't know. I really would struggle with a group of 7, because I just don't know what you'd do with them all. I don't know how you would, like, what factions you would go after, what matches you could even do. You know, how would they get promo time, having all of them in the ring at the same time? I mean, I think them getting promo time is a real issue now. I mean, thankfully, a lot of them don't talk. So I don't know that that's going to be a massive concern, but it's not going to be great for their character development moving forward. Oh, I tell you what, I feel like this is a massive conversation, one that I should probably abandon. But there's just so much to talk about when it comes to this group and different incarnations of this group. Wyndham said, I believe it will lead to Alexa's return, but I don't know about The Fiend. Maybe a new version of The Fiend, but it has Uncle Howdy elements. Brendan said, Liv Morgan, thanks you. Well, thank you, Liv. I am the colour red said, it all goes back to she and the line, I can only open the door, but she must choose to walk through. It is the opposite of let us in. It is please enter. It's come and join us. Ty said, I love the video. Little shorts. I think it leads to new targets. I know everyone says Alexa. I don't think she should be part of the group. She's not forgotten or discarded, but I guess people forget the group's narrative already. No, it's not that they forgot the group's narrative. It's the fact that when we last saw her, she was already joining up with Howdy. So it's not necessarily that they're having to go and recruit her, because she may have already been recruited. You know, one of the last times that we saw her was that she was being followed by Howdy. He was popping up all the time in her segments. So that may have been when she was recruited. She may already have been part of this group from the very beginning. And then, honestly, when she comes back, having been away for so long, I think you could easily make an argument that she comes back lost. Because who is she? If she comes back as the goddess and struggles in this new world, I mean, don't forget, there's loads of new female talent. You know, you've got, like, Rhea Ripley, who I think was around when Alexa was around, but, you know, the Rhea Ripley we have now is very different to the Rhea Ripley from, like, 2022, when she first joined up with Judgment Day. And then, of course, like, Liv Morgan is in a very different place now. How does Alexa fit into this current roster? You could easily bring her back as goddess, and she could struggle to kind of find her rhythm, find momentum, and she could be lost, and then the group could recruit her. So I have to go back to what I said at the start. I think you can go either way. It just really depends on what you want to do. If you want her to come back as a goddess and be a bit lost and then have the group, you know, try and save her. I mean, Nikki trying to save Alexa makes sense because Nikki was very upset when Alexa kind of turned her back on her. She couldn't understand it. She was really frustrated by it. And, you know, I remember a match that they had where Nikki was shouting, "I'm your best friend, you're my best friend," and they were like fighting at the same time because they'd been in this tag team together. Like, you could understand Nikki still having some feelings for Alexa as well. So I think there's so much history there. It's easy to go down the road of having her come into the group. She may already be in the group, or you can go down the road where she's not interested in being in the group. She's got a family and she, you know, wants to do her own thing. But the streets are saying that Bray had a new character for her, so we are expecting her to join up with the group in some fashion. Slipknot 2K Sean said, maybe a new character. If not, it definitely has to be something to do with Alexa. Or maybe it's just another Uncle Howdy thing that leads into a new storyline or rivalry. I think the Wyatt Six aren't done with Gable and the Creeds. Maybe one more match at pay-per-view and then that's it. Bray Wyatt Forever said it was tremendous. Wish it was longer than 2 minutes. I think it could lead to Alexa. But to be honest, when the voice said other doors shall be opened, the work must continue, it kind of felt like Bray was talking to him spiritually. I don't know if that's what we're going for, though. Sinister File said, I really enjoyed the video. It helps build the story of the Wyatt Six. The video clearly lays out plans, but WWE has got to be careful how long they take executing them. Today's fans have very short attention spans, so they need to keep them invested as much as possible. BLZFi said maybe the opening of new doors means SmackDown. It's funny you should say that, actually, because some people were saying TNA, but I really don't think TNA. Personally. We just haven't seen main roster stars going over there. If you look at the kind of talent we're sending, it's Tatum Paxley, you know, it's Charlie Dempsey. I think that's a relationship between NXT and TNA. I would not be shocked if at some point they sent AJ Styles, because he said he wanted to go back to TNA, like to wrap up his career. So that wouldn't shock me. And if they sent someone like The Boat, Natalia, who would be classed as, like, you know, a big star, of course, but she's also someone that's not really involved in that many storylines, so you could send a Natalia and, you know, she could create a little moment. But I don't know, sending a group as big as the Wyatt Six to TNA, I don't know that they would do that, to be honest. I struggle with that. Them going to SmackDown, definitely a possibility. Max Irish Guy said both. Dylan said Alexa Bliss will be darker than she's ever been, and she will be the leader aside Bo, and the Wyatt Six will take over. Right, we've got a few bits we can have a little look at here. USA Network said 4 years ago, the Fiend's mind games caused Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss's friendship to come to an end. There we go. That was when they were in the Performance Center 4 years ago. That was now. Wow. I am the wrath that consumes you, great balls of fire. Do you remember that show? Wow. The Eye, which we spoke about during the latest Unseen. Uncle Howdy picture by Hurdy Sketch. Look at that, 6,000 views. Very good, very good. And there we go, that was today's video. So loads of thoughts, loads of opinions, loads of conversations for us to get our teeth into. I do love these videos because we get lots of people's thoughts into them. It allows us to have different conversations as they pop up and explore lots of different topics. And I really feel like we end up having a lot of the kind of conversations we have during live streams. And it's just such a good way of just pulling it out and giving it its own space. So a big thank you to everyone that contributed, and hopefully people found this interesting. We will be back tomorrow with another video. I think at the time of recording this, it's going to look like summer. Like, what are your thoughts about CM Punk since he returned? What the future looks like? The whole strap match situation. What would you do with the Drew thing? Should he be champion? What would you do with him at WrestleMania? Blah, 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 blah. So keep an eye out on Wrestling Daze YT. Wrestling Daze YT on Twitter. I'll have another feedback required post, which at the moment I think is going to be based on CM Punk. So thanks a lot for watching. Appreciate the support. I'll hopefully see you again next time. Bye for now.